If any event that could be called as something that changed the course of history, then it would be the brutal ambush that happened in Iraq. This tampered the relationship between the two nations to such an extent it took another decade to mend. The US had to seek help from an independent task force. What really happened? Who tipped them off? The secret was revealed, and it's nothing you can imagine. Watch ahead to find out. The Blackwater Fallujah ambush of 2004 stands as a highly disputed incident within the Iraq War. This particular ambush holds great significance as it served as a pivotal moment in the conflict, profoundly influencing the approach and conduct of US military operations in Iraq. Before delving into the specific details of the ambush, it is essential to grasp the broader context in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. Following these tragic events, the United States embarked on a comprehensive war on terror, which encompassed the controversial invasion of Iraq in 2003. Understanding this backdrop is crucial for comprehending the complexities surrounding the Blackwater Fallujah ambush and its far-reaching consequences. In the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, the United States embarked on a mission to secure Iraq and dismantle insurgent groups. However, the task proved to be formidable, prompting the US government to seek assistance from private military companies such as Blackwater for security services. Distinct from the US military, these companies operated with greater independence and were not bound by the same regulations. Initially, the US military encountered minimal resistance. However, as time passed, opposition to the occupation grew stronger and insurgent activities gained momentum. By 2004, the insurgency had intensified, posing a significant challenge for the US military. Containing the escalating violence and restoring stability became increasingly difficult. Against this backdrop, the Blackwater Fallujah ambush of 2004 took place, marking a pivotal moment in the conflict. This event had far-reaching consequences and shaped the subsequent approach to US military operations in Iraq. It also raised important questions about the role and accountability of private military companies in complex and volatile environments. Initially, the US military encountered minimal resistance during the occupation of Iraq. However, as time passed, opposition to the presence of US forces grew stronger and insurgent activities began to take hold. By 2004, the insurgency had intensified, posing significant challenges for the US military in containing the escalating violence and restoring stability throughout the country. Among the cities deeply affected by the insurgency, Fallujah emerged as a notable hotbed of insurgent activity. It became a symbol of resistance against the US occupation, highlighting the complexities faced by the military in its efforts to establish control and security. Blackwater USA, a private military company, was contracted by the US government to provide security for its personnel in Iraq. While Blackwater had gained a reputation for being one of the most professional and efficient security companies in Iraq, it was also known for its aggressive tactics and lack of accountability. Scott Helvenston, a former Navy SEAL with experience in various conflict zones, including Somalia and Kosovo, had also worked as a stuntman and appeared in movies such as G.I. Jane and The Rock. Jerry Zavko, another former Army Ranger who served in the Gulf War, had been employed by Blackwater for several years. He was recognized for his exceptional physical fitness and dedication to his work. Wesley Badalona, a former US Army Ranger, also had several years of experience with Blackwater. These individuals, with their extensive military backgrounds and commitments to their roles, were part of the Blackwater team operating in Iraq. Michael Tigg, a former US Army Special Forces soldier, was known for his composed and nonchalant demeanor, even in high-pressure situations. With a service in multiple conflict zones such as Bosnia and Afghanistan, Tigg had gained valuable experience and honed his skills. Prior to joining Blackwater, he had also worked as a private contractor for the US government. Alongside Scott Helvenston, Jerry Zovko and Wesley Badalona, all four contractors, possessed extensive military backgrounds, making them a highly experienced and capable team. The ambush. On March 31, 2004, a convoy consisting of 2 flatbed trucks and 2 armored SUVs was en route to deliver essential food supplies to a US military base in Fallujah. Providing security for the convoy were the 4 Blackwater contractors, with Badalona and Zovko positioned in the front vehicle, followed by the flatbed trucks, and finally Helvenston and Tigg in the rear vehicle. As the convoy navigated its way through the city, it suddenly found itself under attack from a large group of insurgents. These insurgents were heavily armed with rifles, rocket-propelled grenades, and various other weapons, launching a brazen ambush on the convoy. The attackers had meticulously prepared roadblocks and barricades along the convoy's planned route. As the ambush unfolded, the insurgents initiated their assault from the rear of the convoy, swiftly opening fire on the approaching vehicles. Bullets pierced through the doors and shattered the windows, resulting in the tragic deaths of Helvenston and Tig, who were situated in the rear vehicle. Meanwhile, Zovko and Badalona, positioned two truck lengths ahead, were acutely aware of the gunfire erupting behind them. Reacting swiftly, Badalona pushed down on the accelerator, aiming to swiftly escape the deadly zone. However, their intended escape route was obstructed by the barricades up ahead, leaving them with limited options. With the assailants closing in from behind and engaging at close range, the intensity of the firefight heightened. In the midst of this chaos, 2 rounds pierced through the driver's seat, striking Badalona in the back. Overwhelmed by his injuries, he slumped over onto Zovko, who had already succumbed to the attack. Despite their valiant efforts to escape, the contractors found themselves facing insurmountable resistance. Overwhelmed by the sheer intensity of the attack, they were eventually subdued and subjected to brutal violence. In the aftermath of the firefight, a multitude of locals swiftly converged upon the scene, pouring out from alleys, shops, and apartments. In their frenzied state, they seized the opportunity to loot the vehicles and the belongings of the fallen contractors. Amidst the chaotic aftermath, Badalona's carbine was forcefully ripped from around his neck, while a teenager in white trousers leaped onto the hood of the lead SUV. Boldly reaching through the passenger window, the teenager seized Zovko's gun, alongside any radios or valuable items they could lay their hands on. The frenetic scene illustrated the volatile environment and the opportunistic behavior exhibited by some of the locals in the wake of the tragic event. Following their capture, the contractors were forcefully pulled out of their vehicles, subjected to brutal beatings, and their bodies were set ablaze. The charred remains of their corpses were then callously dragged through the streets of the city as a chilling display of brutality. Their lifeless bodies were eventually hung over a bridge that spanned the Euphrates River. The grim spectacle persisted for nearly 10 hours before Iraqi police finally intervened and cut them down. Furthermore, the success of the ambush was aided by the involvement of corrupt Iraqi forces who lured the convoy into the carefully planned attack. Their complicity added a layer of treachery to the already dire situation, highlighting the complex and dangerous dynamics at play in the region. The aftermath. The Fallujah ambush triggered a massive response from the US military, culminating in the First Battle of Fallujah. This fierce battle proved to be one of the most harrowing and bloodiest confrontations of the entire Iraq War. Beginning on the April 4, 2004, the operation involved over 10,000 US troops, making it one of the largest military endeavors of the conflict. The battle unfolded in a relentless and brutal manner, with intense fighting engulfing the streets and structures of the city. The US military employed formidable firepower, including artillery, airstrikes, and tanks, in an attempt to dislodge the entrenched insurgents. The confrontations resulted in the deaths of hundreds of insurgents and dozens of US troops, illustrating the high toll exacted